Welcome to Brightside Business, where I talk to online entrepreneurs like yourself about how to grow your business to 7 figures and beyond. My name's Joe Young. I grew my family's professional services business to $100,000 months in 2 years, and I learned a lot along the way. And one of them is the difference between how a 5-figure solopreneur approaches their business versus a 7-figure business owner. And that's what I want to unpack today. Same 24 hours, what's the difference? Because the results are different, hugely different between those two types of business owners. And specifically, I boiled it down to 4 lessons that I had to unlearn to be able to grow to these $100,000 months, and hopefully this will be helpful for you. The first thing I had to unlearn as I scaled is that I can do blank better than anyone else. Insert business, task, responsibility, role of the business. This was a huge limiting belief for me. I thought that I could do everything in the business better than anyone. And the ideal, the thing is, sure, and if you're a tiny business and just 3 people and you're just trying to get things done and scrap and scrape and make things happen, you're wearing a lot of hats, so you're not really focused on expertise. But once you get to the level where you're making some money but you want to scale higher, you have to start loving and celebrating delegation, not despising it. And a lot of people struggle with this because they're like, well, how do I maintain quality? And how do I make sure that, how do I let go of things and make sure that they're doing really well even when I'm not overseeing them? Well, it all comes down to your weekly one-to-ones. If you delegate something to someone, make sure you're meeting with them weekly. It doesn't have to be long. And you're going to talk about 2 things. You're going to talk about your metrics, and you're going to look at their affect during that meeting. And you're going to ask them about their situation and how things are going. Metrics are important because obviously those are cut and dry numbers. Those are their KPIs. How is their area of the business going? And number 2, their affect. You're going to ask them how they're doing, how their team is doing, how they feel this time of year is versus this time of year last year. And you're going to watch and you're going to meet with them week by week and look at how they answered that question differently. And you can tell a lot by the tone and reading in between the lines, and the interpersonal side of how your team leader or some person in your business who reports to you, how they talk about their area of their business in combination with the metrics to know how they're doing. And that's how you just completely let an area of the business be controlled by someone else, is by doing those 2 things during weekly meetings. And this also is important to think about, the idea that you can identify and place people in specific roles. So one thing that you don't need when you're a solopreneur is the ability to understand and to move people into certain roles that will help them flourish. But as you scale, you will need the skill of learning what people are good at and then helping them to leverage that strength inside your business. For example, let's say you got Jim over here, and Jim is causing half of the issues on your admin team and he's stressing everyone out. But Jim is super friendly. And he's a big team player, and he's trying really, really hard. He's not lazy. He's not, slacking. So you're like, what do you do? Well, how about we try moving Jim to the customer support team? Jim spends half his day worrying what other people think about him and supporting his teammates that he doesn't get his own work done and he makes mistakes. So that's an example of identifying someone who has a skill set and putting them on the right seat on the bus. And wouldn't you know it, Jim will probably flourish in that new role. So that's the first lesson I had to unlearn. The second one is, I thought big personalities led big businesses. And this is just not true. I gotta tell you, from introvert to introvert, if you're an introvert watching this, there is a disproportionate amount of bravado we see on social media these days from CEOs, because those are the clips and the personalities that rise to the top. But the reality is, if you look at the Good to Great study, which ultimately led to the book Good to Great by Jim Collins, he talks about level 5 leaders in that book that completely turned their companies around and led to sustained 10 plus year over year growth, beating the S&P 500. And these level 5 leaders were not bombastic. They were not huge personalities. They usually were quiet, methodical, thoughtful people. And they went on to grow some of the hugest businesses you've ever, you'd heard of, their family names. And the reality is, when the smoke clears after a hurricane, it's the trees with the deepest roots that are standing, no matter how tall they are. So that's why it's important to think about, getting a little bit more girth and a little bit more depth to your leadership and not worrying about the outside. I read a book a long time ago. This was such a waste of time. It was called The Charisma Myth. I don't know why I read it. No one cares. Your team, they don't care if you're funny in meetings. They want to be respected, and they want to be part of a team that works on making a dent in the universe, and doing something meaningful with their day. They don't care if you're witty or not, Number 3, follow your gut. This was a huge lesson I had to unlearn when I started my business journey, because honestly, there was no worse question you could have asked Joey at the beginning of my business scaling journey than, what does your intuition tell you, Joey? What does your gut tell you we need to do in this situation? That would have been horrible. And it's because I wasn't an expert yet. Psychologists say experts are people who have spent enough time with a certain subject, with a certain discipline, to build a mental model. So they have a response or a toolkit to certain problems or certain opportunities. So like a scientist would have a mental model of how the atom works or how it forms. A soccer coach would have a mental model for how to position their players to win the World Cup. Maybe a business person might have a mental model for successfully launching a new product. These are what experts are. Novices are not experts. And I spent a lot of time in the beginning thinking I was an expert. And I wish I didn't spend so much time thinking about, should I follow my gut on this, my intuition? Because honestly, I had no idea what I was doing. Instead, I wish I had built more confidence through my scaling journey in my ability to learn. Because what I realized is the faster I moved from a state of helplessness and just trying to grasp it, feeling right in a situation, to a state of curiosity and learning, the faster I moved, the faster I dealt with real problems, and my business grew. And so the same can be for you. If you're feeling like you have to know the answer to questions, have to be the smartest person in the room, you gotta, follow your intuition on things, that is blocking your ability to learn quickly. And you might actually, by trying to stay confident, be actually putting yourself in a state of more helplessness, because you're closing yourself off to learning and therefore creative problem solving, and therefore growing and scaling your business. Number 4 lesson, final one. I thought scaling required that I take my business personally. I saw people who would get super pissed about the small things. I read about Steve Jobs and how personally he would take, the computers that he built and how he just focused on the minute details. And I thought that was the only way to build a business. But what I realized is that it's, in reality, small minds are the ones that take every win and every loss in their business personally. Like when I was early in my sales journey, every no was a personal attack on me from a potential client. Every yes was a huge victory and, meant I was a paragon of sales, right? I thought it was awesome and I was over the moon, and my emotions would rise and fall a lot on my sales conversion ability and the performance of the business. But what I understand now is that the really successful business owners do not take their business personally. They look at their business as a machine to be tweaked and to improved. They look at it more like a science fair project than an extension of their identity. It's a fun problem-solving game, right? And a couple of skills that they develop to not take their business so personally are analyzing and prioritizing problems and opportunities in an objective way. It seems kind of simple, but the ability to analyze and to prioritize problems and opportunities. For example, if there's a problem in your business and you're like super pissed about it, maybe it's an IT thing, and you go off for half a day trying to fix this thing that just is pissing you off, and you're like, we're not a business that has this type of issues, and then you spend so much time fixing it, and you realize it really all came back down to the fact that you brought a stupid printer brand or something like that, and you just wasted all that time on something that someone else could have fixed. And that's when you obsess over the wrong problems and you don't analyze them and you don't prioritize them. Conversely, in opportunity, there's very similar amounts of time spent building a 5-figure versus a 6-figure marketing campaign. You just got to know which one to spend your energy and your time on. Are you building a 5-figure solopreneur business, or are you building a 7-figure business that's going to scale, where you're going to spend your time leveraging your energy and your intellect on? So between those two things, right? Are you going to prioritize the bigger opportunity, or going to prioritize the smaller ones? The other strategy and skill that people have to develop to distance themselves from their business is breaking things that aren't broken. You know, they talk about this idea of an old couch in a business, where there's this old, dirty, like threadbare couch sitting in the proverbial lobby of your business, and everyone else from the outside sees it, and even the team sees it, but the business owner, it's a huge blind spot. But that's an old couch that they love, and so they have to keep it around. And it's so personal. No one can touch that couch. It's like, no, that's got to be where it's got to be. But to grow and to scale, you need to break things that aren't broken. You need to grab your couch and fling it out the window, because it's the thing that's holding your business back. Like a doctor who has to re-break a bone that's not growing and healing properly. You need to break things that aren't broken in your business so you can build them back better. If this stuff is helping you, if these lessons that I had to unlearn are helping you to unlearn some stuff, I would love to hear your feedback. Shoot me an email, joey@joeyhyoung.com, or shoot me a DM on Instagram. Joey H. Young is my handle, @Joey H. Young on Instagram. Would love to hear your thoughts or hear your questions, so I can maybe talk about some upcoming, in some upcoming episodes, I can talk about your questions or your thoughts here on the show. And hey, if you want a free 20-minute consultation on your business to help you break through the next barrier between you and scaling, go to the link in my bio on Instagram. It'll help you to click that link and find a time to meet, and we can just talk about your business and hopefully break through the barrier that you're facing right now. That's totally free. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this video, leave a 5-star review, follow the show wherever you're listening to it or you're watching it. If you're this far in, it must have helped you. So the way you say thanks is with a good review, a thumbs up. Really appreciate it. And hey, until next time, my friend, get out there, scale your business, have a lot of fun. I'll see you in the next episode.